Hey Saloni, welcome to PMX PMM. It's really glad to have you on the podcast. So, on the first episode, we actually had a product manager and we started the series with a little bit about product management. And then we spoke to a PMM and we went into a little bit of what exactly goes into the life goes into the day of a PMM. And then now we want to get a little bit deeper into how exactly products are made, what exactly goes behind the thinking of product manager and go a little bit into the process that really is followed by a PM. So, and for that, I felt that you were the perfect person to talk to. So, really glad to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Abhyuday, for a very warm welcome. I think it's a very cool idea of starting this podcast, and I've heard, the couple of episodes that you have done, and looks great already. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Saloni. So, I'll jump right in. My first question was about prioritizing features and how exactly you go about implementing them. So, you've described on one of your LinkedIn posts joining a B2B SaaS
Mm.
platform as akin to being a 10,000 piece puzzle where the pieces keep moving.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to building
Yeah.
and prioritizing features on an enterprise platform, how do you decide which pieces
Mm.
of the puzzle to focus on first? And in a complex B2B environment with so many moving parts, what strategies help you identify
Mm.
and prioritize the changes that will deliver the most value?
Yeah, I think I mentioned one of in one of my LinkedIn posts that it's a 10,000 piece puzzle and it's a
Hmm,
it's a big beast, right? So
hmm,
I think so all my career I've been in B2B companies, right? So
hmm,
even when I was, with engineering teams, I was still with B2B, and even now as a product manager also I have been in B2B, and I like this space, right? Because one, it is super complex, so there are a lot of different problems to solve. There are so many different customers you're dealing with at the same time, right? Now, why I say it is, at least for me, I perceive it to be a little bit more complex than B2C, is because those customers or those end users that are actually going to use your product bring
hmm,
in that sort of complexity, right? So couple of things that make it the way it is today, right? So for example, there are so many business processes that you're going to probably cater as a SaaS product manager. So for example, taking the example of any B2B company, right? Talk about Workday, right? For example, so
hmm,
you are a PM at Workday, and you probably are building solutions for different type of organizations. You could be a pharmaceutical company, you could be an FMCG, you could be manufacturing bikes, right? For that sake. So, and you need to make sure that organizational behavior is sort of catered to in that particular product, catering to all business processes across companies. So that's one. I
hmm,
think because there's so much different levels of complexity in every business that comes in as part of your job or becomes a part of your job, because you have to solve for then everything, right? It
hmm,
cannot be
hmm,
just one vanilla template that you can roll out to everybody and say, hey, go ahead and use it, because that won't work, right? Usually
hmm,
these clients are very big ticket clients. They pay in millions, right? And for probably
hmm,
a year long or 2 year long contract, so they expect that sort of grind coming from your product. So it should really help solve problems. It cannot be just a feature factory, right? So for example, if
hmm,
I'm a B2C product manager, and I love what they do, right? I mean, it's super cool to use. There are new shiny features getting rolled out every few days. You open
hmm,
Zepto, Zomato, you feel, oh wow, Christmas is coming, so it looks very Christmassy. But you don't do all of that for a B2B product, right? You
hmm,
maybe prioritize outcomes over features. So you cannot
hmm,
be building a feature factory. It won't help, right? And even your customers would not appreciate it to a lot of extent, right? And then I think it's just harder to sympathize or empathize with your end user when you are a B2B product manager. So it's just harder, right? Because for example, you could be working in a demand planning team, and you are going to be using a lot of B2B products for managing that demand, right? Or maybe supply planning or procurement or whatever, right? So you'll use things like SAP, you'll use Kinaxis, you'll use Ona, whatever, right? You'll use a lot of different products. And
hmm,
product managers sitting in these companies probably have never been planners themselves. So it
True.
is so important that we understand who the end user is going to be, which is different from the customer. So probably like Mondelez is going to pay for something that I'm building, but the end user is different. So I need to
Hmm.
empathize with that end user who's going to actually be using the product, right? So in terms of prioritization, I think number one is impact, right? I mean, there's no, of course, there's Rice and Moscow and all that. We don't use any of those
Hmm.
in,
Hmm.
we read so many frameworks, but nobody really uses them, in practicality, right? So
Hmm.
anything that brings in more revenue and immediately, right, or as soon as possible, that's the number one priority of anybody working in any company. So what is the customer impact you're creating? What is the revenue impact you're creating? Are you saving some time or some man hours or whatever for your client? That's what matters. And then of course there's a layer of how complex it is, what is the effort that's going to go in from our side, and all of that.
Hmm.
So you bake all of that in, and then you finally kind of create a list or like a roadmap that you're going to do for the next week or next month, right? So I think there needs to be a strategic leverage sort of a thing in everything you do. So whatever you're going to do today should help you do something better tomorrow. So
Hmm.
I think, yeah, that's how at least I have seen leaders in my companies or the ones that I've worked with, or even at my job, right? I think that's the one key thing that we use to prioritize.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Saloni. I found two very interesting takeaways from that. One is almost every single product manager I've spoken to, the first thing that they talk about is, okay, what revenue impact is this particular feature driving? And that has to be your North Star. And the second thing about that you spoke about, that in a B2B environment, how you would focus on impact versus features. And I saw that working. So I was working as a PMM at a B2B company as well. I've noticed how it's not about the form, but more about the functionality when it comes to B2B, and we're not really
Yeah.
concerned with how exactly it ends up looking versus the value that it will deliver.
Yeah.
So I found that quite interesting.
Yeah.
Which my second question kind of brings me to your work experience and what you have spoken about is that at Unilever, you spearheaded custom Gen AI solution that leveraged LLMs to automate tasks like classifying customer queries and streamlining customer tickets. So I want to understand, what did it really take behind the scenes to turn an AI vision into a successful product? And can you walk us through the sort of unglamorous work of product innovation with Gen AI? Because there is so much talk about it, but exactly how it happens behind the scenes is something that will really help PMs and aspiring PMs. And what enabled you from a promising idea to a deployed solution?
Got it. Yeah, I think it's a very elaborate question. I'll take some time to sort of break down and answer. Let me know if some parts are missed out, right? So I
Sure.
think when it comes to AI, right, for the last 2, 3 years, we have seen it booming like anything, right? I mean, of course, NLP and ML and a lot of parts of AI also existed before that, but the kind of orchestration that we have seen happening in the industry with so many apps and so many models just thrown at us, every single day, right? I mean, you
Hmm.
refresh your LinkedIn and you'll see, something new pops up every time
Hmm.
you do that, right? So I think it's very hard to keep up. That's one. But I think with AI, there's a lot of, I mean, there's two things that comes with it. I think one is fear and another one is FOMO. So
Hmm.
any leader that's sitting out there, right? I think they're just saying that, do something with AI. Just build something with it so that, we have to say that, we've done this. And a lot
Hmm.
of companies are doing it, which I think is a super time draining thing, right? It's a time sink. You invest in something, it ends up doing nothing. So example, you imagine you're talking to Airtel customer care and you are talking to a bot, right? You want to disconnect your Airtel connection. The bot will not let you disconnect. It will not let
Hmm.
you speak to a person. And you are so
Yes.
frustrated by the end of it. And so it's not really solving a problem, right? Which could have been, handled. Now, why companies do it? Why do they use chatbots and, many other bots in many other processes? One, of course, I think it's a big cost head right? That comes with keeping people employed with
Hmm.
customer care services and customer call centers, etc. So it makes sense financially, but I think from a customer experience point of view, it's extremely painful and extremely. I think it's very nuanced if you are able to build something really which helps your end user, right? So in my case,
Hmm.
I'll talk about the kind of problem that I was trying to solve. Right. So Unilever operates in 190 plus countries, right? So it's a
Hmm.
big organization. With big organization comes big customers. Now, when I say customers, I'm talking about distributors primarily, who are our primary customers, right? And so these distributors are sitting across geographies and sending us emails on a daily basis asking, where is my order? I placed this order, but I want to cancel my order, or maybe just strike this out and then add this line item, or change this
Hmm.
quantity, do this, do that. So there are 200, 300 different types of intents which they actually use to email us or call us, right?
Hmm.
So to
Hmm.
tackle all of that, we did what everybody else did in the market. We employed 200 people to kind of sit through, understand Italian, German, Spanish, English, Hindi, Indonesian, whatever language they were throwing at us, we had people answering them back all the time. There were chats, there were WhatsApp, they were using n number of apps to just talk to us, right, and
Hmm.
get their sort of orders in place. So we realized that it's a very time intensive activity. Of course, if their queries are not answered or they don't get to speak to a human, they're very very frustrated. But of
Hmm.
course, again, like I said, it was a big cost head for us. So we thought, okay, now there's so many automation workflows available. Let us also give it a chance. So what we did a very small POC. We took some data from different languages, etc. And then data. When I say data, it was horrible, in the sense that there were so many
Unstructured and
emails that we had to sift through. Yes, there was no structure. So when they were these people who used to email us were not even very tech savvy. So they used to write in whatever way and form they desired. There were images attached sometimes, there were spelling mistakes, right? There were mistakes
hmm.
in the numbers they used to send us. So a lot of different, irregularities in the kind of data that we were seeing. So one, of course, is cleaning that data, making it useful for the LLM in the first place, right? Otherwise, LLMs they are hallucinating even now, but last
Hmm.
year the situation was worse, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think there was a lot of complexity in the type of data that we had, right?
Hmm.
So, like I said, languages and multiple languages, right? And spelling errors and just a lot of data. And there were privacy concerns also. So, for example, if I am somebody who's answering those emails, I was probably writing some language, right? And I don't want that language to be exposed now, right? So,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
a big privacy concern for somebody to be looking into my mailbox. I wouldn't like that, right?
So.
So it was very hard to sort of get rid of those spams and all those issues, right? So, chalo, once we did that, we were able to sort of understand or maybe get some sort of structure in the sense that what data we will use to train our LLMs. Now, at
Hmm.
that time, we had OpenAI, etc., coming in with a lot of new different models. We gave multiple, models a try, because for us, it was just classification of data and extraction of
Hmm.
some entities from that data, right? So once we had that structure, so now at least we have all these prompt libraries, etc., right, to guide
Yeah.
us through a proper structure, how to write that prompt. But at that time when we were doing it, it was very nascent, right?
Hmm.
Everybody was just doing a lot of trial and error and experimenting to find out what works, which was very cost intensive again, because every time
Hmm.
you were throwing something to the LLM, it's using tokens. Tokens cost you money, right? So just even for small POCs, it was a lot of investment that we kind of did at that point of time.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, once we had sort of understood how to train our models with a lot of trial and error for different languages, again, going past all those complexities, there was a problem of still the LLMs hallucinating, losing context, right?
Hmm.
And then there was a requirement of having some guardrails. You can't let an AI talk to your customers on your behalf,
Hmm.
because you don't know what is it going to say, right? And you cannot end up frustrating your customers even more. So we had to
Hmm.
set up a lot of processes in terms of what will be the fallback mechanisms? If this does not work, then what happens? Will that sort of query end up in some black hole? Will we ever be able to get it back? Should there be a human in the loop? If yes, then what problem are we even solving if the human is still in the loop, right? So there were a
Hmm.
lot of different questions at that time that we decided to, sort of work with. So it was a lot of hard work. Again, multiple months of efforts but I think, yeah, towards the end of it, the last 10% is always the hardest when you think how will your customers actually adopt it, right? So getting that POC tested by customers was the real hard challenge, right? Again,
Hmm.
how do you again integrate your mailboxes? Because sometimes these customers were just wishing them happy birthdays and wishing them happy new years, right? And they were talking personally because they over the years had built a relationship, which
Hmm.
now with all this LLM and AI chatbots, they will lose all of that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we did a lot of that analysis over a few months that we worked with. But yeah, I think how you convince your stakeholders is really an art, I think, and you
Yeah.
get better over time. Nobody really knows what works, what doesn't work. There's no framework when you're dealing with people, right? So I think what seems to work with most people is that when you tell them what's in it for them, I think it works. So if you're talking to a leader, you tell them this is the time, or maybe in terms of man hours that we are going to save. It works
Hmm.
for them. If you're talking to the customer, you will then tell them, your turnaround time for any query will be much lesser. Because
Hmm.
earlier we had a time crunch for people looking at your emails and responding. Now the bot will at least send you some acknowledgement, right? So you'll have at least you will be patient, right? That
Hmm.
something is
Hmm. Hmm.
happening. So
Hmm. That's
I then kind of worked out at the end, so it was good. Yeah, otherwise it would have been a lot of money lost and nothing good coming out of it. But yeah.
hmm. That's, I think that really gives people some clarity on how exactly an AI feature is implemented, because I think anybody in IT, whether they're a product manager or in product marketing, they'll know just how much pressure there is to put out an AI feature just so that there can be a
Yeah.
claim that AI is a part of the product itself. So we
Yeah.
know that a
Yeah.
lot of products do just add something for namesake so that they could have an AI promptly on their homepage, versus a scenario like this where
Yeah.
there is an AI feature that actually delivers value. I think
Yeah.
that's a huge difference. So with
Yeah.
that, which is about the product itself, I wanted to shift course to a little bit about the synergy between product and marketing. So I'm sure you would have had to work with a lot of marketers and with a lot of product marketers. So what insights can you share about effective collaboration between product marketers and product marketing managers? And how do you think PMs and PMMs can work together to bridge the gap between product development and go-to-market strategy? And based on your own experience, are there any best practices to ensure that product's value proposition and the customer messaging, which is in the hands of the PMM, stay connected to the features that are being built?
Yeah, I think great question, right? So I got introduced to this idea of product marketing management very recently, actually, right? So in my new role, so there are I mean, in terms of divisions, we have one R&D team or like a product development team that actually builds the building blocks of the platform, and then
Hmm.
there is the product marketing management team, which will actually customize different templates for different customers, right? So they work on top of what the R&D team or the product development team does, right? I think I think of it very simply, right? So product management builds, or maybe product managers, they do build the product, and product
Hmm.
marketing managers, I think they help make sense of that product, right?
Hmm.
As
Hmm.
to how is it actually going to be implemented for a particular customer. I think it is more important in terms of B2B products, because you need to sell a good story, and if there is
Hmm.
not a good enough story, however shiny features you build, it will probably end up in a black hole, right? Nobody's going to end up using it. So you need to know what to build, why to build it, what is the problem it is going to solve. So I think that's the primary sort of question that at least now we are asking, among ourselves whenever we have like connects
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
PMMs. We understand what is driving them, or what are their KPIs, or what is it that they are trying to solve for, right? And then also kind of bring that in synergy with what we are trying to do in terms of product development, right? So those roadmaps, they need to align. Otherwise, then it ends up going two separate directions and it helps nobody, right? So I think in
Hmm.
terms of best practices, I think it helps to have like a co-ownership, right? I think these are two co-pilots of the same plane. Imagine like
Hmm.
it like that, right? So they need to be in sync for the product to actually work. So I think what we tend to do a lot is that involving PMMs very early on in the process. So if, for example, the R&D team or the product development team is planning a roadmap, right? So we do get a buy-in from the PMMs as well, saying that, hey, this is what we're planning, and this is going to bring in more stability or more, better performance, or, just platform reliability, etc. How do you think this is going to impact the customers, or how do you think this is going to make their lives easier or better, or adopt the product better, right? Or buy more solutions from us, etc. So I
Hmm.
think that conversation really helps, because then you get to be on the same page, right? And you need to understand what is the language or the sentiment that's going on in the market. You need to have a very close eye on that, right? Because you could be building anything. If it's not getting used in the market, of theirs, it does not align with your GTM, then it does not really matter what you're doing, right? So
Hmm.
at the end of
Hmm.
the day, like I said, earlier also, I think revenue impact is the one most biggest driver that drives any of these team, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a team sport, and we all need to be in sync. Of course, sometimes there's a pull from PMM saying, we have promised this to the customer, so the product
Yeah.
development team needs to shift their priorities and get that done. Or sometimes there's a pull from the product development team also, saying that hey, we think our code is on monolith and we want to shift it to microservices, whatever, and we want to do it, so let's just delay the launch by a couple of weeks, whatever, because it will be much better for in terms of performance, for example, right? So I think
Hmm.
that could be coming from both the directions, but what is important is that everybody understands they are part of the same team, right? They're not against each other. So
Got it.
yeah, I think that's I think that's my answer.
That's quite interesting because I think across the board, across B2B and B2C SaaS, we're seeing how the function of product marketing has evolved over the last couple of years. So a couple of years back when
Mm.
product marketing was a little fresh, we would still have product
Yeah,
marketing report to marketing. Versus now where
yeah,
almost product marketers report to product, which kind of changes the
yeah,
whole dynamic of how involved product marketing will be in a product itself. And I'm sure you would
yeah,
have seen the difference
absolutely.
of how product marketers being
Yeah,
involved in product management right from the beginning actually makes a difference because
correct.
deciding the messaging and positioning independent of what the product managers are thinking every day would definitely,
Absolutely.
there would be a lack of sync in between that. So
Mm.
that
Yeah, yeah,
clarifies
absolutely.
my perspective on that as well. Which kind of brings me
Yeah.
to my final question, which is mostly for people looking to break into product management and for people looking to switch to product management, which is what
Mm.
advice would you mainly have for aspiring product managers, especially those who are looking to break into product management? I know
Yeah, I
that's
think I
uh,
get
I know
asked that a
that's
lot.
I know that's
I
an elaborate
have
question, but
no definite answer.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have like a definitive answer to saying that, hey, if you do this, you will break in, or hey, if you do
Hmm.
this, you will be great. Because I don't know what works. And product management in itself is a practically, evolving field. So just today, I was looking at some job description and it was asking for AI agent
Yeah.
product manager. And I was like, what does that even mean, man? I mean, we don't say that we are API product managers or database product managers, or I'm a Mongo product manager, Redis product. We don't say all of that. So I don't know where is this coming from. But like I
Hmm.
said, I mean, it's a completely evolving field. So yeah, we'll just learn with it. And I am no expert. I mean, I can only offer advice based on what I have seen in my career or my peers or my other leaders that I work with. But I think, yeah, what seems to work well for most people who are trying to still break in is that you don't need to have a title, right? Before you
Hmm.
start thinking like a product manager. It is mindset. I think you need to be a problem solver in general. You need to ask good questions. You need to be very clear in your thought process. You need to bring in structure. You need to be able to break down big problems into smaller chunks and then, attack them one by one, right? Rather than just ranting or just laundry listing solutions. I think that never helps. So I think, yeah, start there, right?
Hmm.
Start by just bringing in that mindset in general in your daily life, right? So, and I always say this, right? Build a lot of side projects. Show,
Hmm.
don't tell, right? Like they say, you could be talking, and we get so much, advice on the internet today, right? I mean, everybody's trying to give you some sort of a gyan or selling some course.
Hmm.
Everything is about trying to sound very experty, but I don't think we need all of that advice. I think it is pretty simple, right? So whenever you look at even the structure of PM interviews, right, they're very basic. They're based out of common sense, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, an undergrad student would do good at it because we're so consumed with so many frameworks and, what works and, watching so many videos, etc. I think it just takes away the essence, right? So don't take a lot of random advice on the internet. Just try to build something. Just pick a small
Hmm.
problem. Try to think how will you best solve it in the most efficient way, spending the least amount of money, spending the least amount of resources, not just money, right? Time, etc.
Got it.
So, yeah, I think that helps, right? So, build your profile to say that, I have accomplished this, I understand this, so I am best for this job, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, I deserve to be there, right? So, you need to start thinking like that and don't wait for any doors to open. I mean, just go to the window,
Yeah.
man. You could be coming from any lane, right? You could be in customer experience, or you could be a data analyst or whatever. Again, like I said earlier in my chat, right? It You don't need to be coming from a specific domain to become a
Hmm.
product manager. I think it is more on the mindset, how you solve problems, how you approach problems, think about them. I think, yeah, if you do that well, build that right skill set, I think you're good to go. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks, Saloni. That will be quite helpful. Like I mentioned in an earlier episode as well, we have a lot of people nowadays looking to shift either into product management or product marketing. And I think the key thing that you're saying that, okay, focus on the basics of exactly how exactly do you want to approach a problem? What exactly do you like about a product? And what would you do? The typical, like you said, there
Mhm.
is a typical way a PM interview does go. And if we just focus on that, if we just look at the basics of problem solving for the end user, I think that will be a
Yeah.
good place for anyone to start.
Correct. I think don't try to fall in love with the role or the glamour that is associated with it. Just fall in love with the problem that you're trying to solve and you'll be there, right? I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, so PM role at different companies looks different. So it doesn't matter where you work, but what you do matters. How you solve problems or how you make lives easier matters. So yeah, just focus on that.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Aloni. I really had a great time having this conversation. It was good to go in this episode a lot deeper into exactly how products and features and the thought that goes behind it. And I really had a great chat. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Abhyuday, for having me here. I think they were great questions. I hope it helps. But yeah, I had a great time talking to you, and hope to see you around soon.
Sure. Thanks, Aloni. See you. Good night.